I wrote about this in editorial already, so maybe some of the people have seen it. But one of the benefits of vanadium is that it isn't sexy. Because it isn't sexy, it never had to go through a lithium-type bubble. It never got
Right,
over.
the hype cycle.
There's no hype cycle. It never got overbought. It's just kind of this boring, bulky, inefficient technology that happens to have a perfectly suited application, which is like the fastest growing segment in the entire kind of battery universe, which is distributed energy storage. So, if you want a solar farm, then you're going to need a battery, and vanadium is the best type of battery. End of story. So, it's not that new. It's just it's becoming popular now for that application because lithium used to dominate as it dominated everything, and now we're seeing more specialization.
So there are actual vanadium batteries already deployed.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, the company I'm covering will sell you one if you want. So
How much do they cost? A lot?
yeah, I mean they're expensive. They just got the Department of Energy funded like an 84 megawatt hour store capacity series of projects involving this company. They're going to supply the storage capacity. So it's for a company that's like 50 million market cap. This is a big deal.
Welcome to the Angel Research Podcast. My name is Jason Freert, and I'm here today with Alex Koyfman. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you.
Back
again
to the show.
That's
and
right.
This is the first time we are live on TikTok over there, in case anybody's watching us live.
Yeah. Interesting.
We should talk about that. Before we went live, I had to do an age verification where they took a selfie of me, and they confirmed that I was indeed old.
Yeah.
I don't know what was up with that.
Yeah, I had that's actually an interesting topic. And for some reason this has been popping up more and more. Initially a conversation with an ex-employee of Angel, but what's up with Zoomers aging worse than Millennials? Have you read about that at all?
Is that a thing?
Yeah, it's definitely a thing, and it's like a trend on YouTube now. Videos of Zoomers like complaining
They just
about
look
being
really old.
Yeah, they're like saying people are taking me for like my mother's age, or they thought that my mother was my younger sister, and this guy was like 26 years old.
I wonder if it has to do with just like clothing styles, and like haircut styles, maybe.
Well, the two that I saw, one was a 22-year-old girl who her thing was she advertised fillers and all sorts of like facial augmentation type stuff. It wasn't out of control yet. She definitely looked older, but they were like people were accusing her of being like 45, right? And she was getting really offended. And then there was another one where a dude he was like 26, and he had The Rock sign something at a signing event, and The Rock signed it to his son that didn't exist. And he was just like, I'm 26 years old. People think that I'm in my 40s. And I read an article about it. Like it's actually true. They're starting to the perceived age is now exceeding that of the previous generation. You guys, who apparently are aging better than anybody. I don't know about Gen Xers, but I guess we're just out of the picture at this point.
Yeah, well, I know I've seen going back where people will show pictures of people from like the 60s and 70s, and they'll be like, this person's 42 years old, and they look like 50, 60.
Yeah.
So I think it was always trending, so maybe it just really trended down, and now it's sort of
Those people fought World War II, though. So
right.
They have.
Yeah. Well, there was
reasons.
I think there was a large degree of smoking going on that
Sure.
I think just
Right.
indoors, like everywhere, which can kind of lead to that. So, on the TikTok front, though, it sounds like, and who knows, by the time, maybe TikTok will be gone by the time this is over.
Yeah, I'm kind of I'm a little hazy on the details here. So basically, the federal government said that they have to either sell this Chinese holding company needs to either sell the asset or get out of the American market by middle of 2025, right? So that's
basically a year. Yeah, they have a year to divest. I think to an American entity.
Man, I mean, obviously, it wouldn't make any sense if they just went into another Chinese holding company and the same thing continued. So.
And they had basically come out, I guess they're fighting it legally, but saying that we're not going to do that. We'll just shut it down before we do that, which is kind of interesting, I guess. But what else would you say? Like, okay, if you have a legal battle, you're not going to just come out and throw your hands up.
It kind of paints us a little bit in a negative light if we're doing stuff like that. This is the free market that we've been sort of espousing for decades as the greatest thing ever, and we now have, not arguably, definitely the most powerful government in the world that's dictating to foreign assets, what they need to do. So
Right, and they basically have thrown up their hands, and they basically know the influence and the data collection that is going on, because they're not saying that to Facebook or Meta or whatever, or YouTube, that is likely collecting
sure,
just as much data.
sure.
Is that because basically they have deals with the government that's like, hey, we know you're getting this data, let's let us under the hood. But ByteDance is, a Chinese affiliated,
Sure.
so they basically are like, yeah, the Chinese government has the same thing, but they can now
Right.
spy on American citizens.
But the narrative is that they're actively trying to subvert our society, which is we're just collecting data, to learn more and to be more efficient, quote unquote, and to maybe
Right.
sell some products. They're actually trying to, get in there and rile things up a little bit.
Right.
Basically, do more of
Turning
what's
people
happening
trans.
right now. Turning people trans, just getting people to start protesting. Subvert society. This is the Yuri Bezmenov thing. I saw the Joe Rogan. If you
Yeah, I've seen that, and he says, yeah, you start breaking down their society through like a long-term process.
through indoctrination, starting on the school system. So, if TikTok is a stepping stone towards that, then that's I guess that's the justification that we have too.
Well, I have read or seen that the Chinese version of TikTok is very different, because they tend to show people doing like amazing things, right? Things that bring prestige, performing well academically, athletically, they kind of push the algorithm that way. Whereas
Eating
in
Tide
here,
Pods.
yeah,
That's
in
what-
here they're certain things are pushed. Although maybe that's just a reflection of the society
I think
in
that
general,
that's the market.
right? Because you stay on a particular thing long enough, then they're like, oh, you like this, and they give you more of it.
Sure.
So I guess, do you think this opens the door? If they basically have passed it and succeeded,
Yeah.
is that opening the door for other stuff?
Well, the U.S. government has been breaking up monopolies for over 100 years. So, opening the door to what? If they can bring criminal charges against a corporation, then they should obviously do that. What else? Like what are they opening the door to? What's the next sort of escalation? I would ask.
I guess a more isolationist sort of policy, where it's like you can't operate in the U.S. unless you're a American.
Vetted by the federal government somehow.
Basically, yeah.
Look, I think we live in a time where, unfortunately, information has the kind of impact where just letting it roam freely and get passed along freely and passed off as reality, passed off as legit news. I think that the liabilities there are too huge. We can't. It would be irresponsible to say that free information all the time, the chaos that it actually is a good thing, because is it really? Humans don't do well with this, just random delivery of information from a million different sources with questionable credibility, right? So
don't you
control is
think is a
required.
little bit of a, I think the spying aspect is what the government is going out with TikTok, but then you get in the realm of like suppressing speech side of things.
yeah,
And
see,
don't you think that people, there are some really stupid people out there that are going to take what they see on social media as fact and spread it around, and other people are going to be fooled and say like, see, I told you that the lizard people, are in
Yeah,
the government. Don't you think eventually people will sort of wise up that say, hey, you can't just read everything?
I'm waiting for that to happen.
Well,
And
it's
free
going to be a
speech has
process.
limitations, and the most famous example being incitement. You can't just scream fire in a theater. You can't start a riot. That's not part of free speech. Depriving others of their rights is not your right if you do it through speech. And if this incitement takes place electronically, then I look. I know it's a slippery slope towards living in a controlled, oppressive society, but there also kind of needs to be a balance where you don't bombard young, extremely impressionable minds with straight up bullshit until they start believing it and that becomes their worldview, or at least balance it. At least
Right.
make sure that the balance exists, and provide absurdity from the other end of the spectrum, if so required. But I don't think that's happening right now. Like we do have controlled free speech in this country already. It's not okay to say certain things, and it's society that's going to get you, not the government. It's society that's going to get you. And for some reason, we're perfectly fine with actual free speech being oppressed by other citizens. But when the government starts doing it, it's immediately a cause for alarm. It's like a knee-jerk response. Is completely unfettered, chaotic free speech
Well,
a good
because
thing?
that's the First Amendment, right? The First Amendment is the government cannot fuck with free speech,
When the
but
First Amendment
other
was written,
institutions.
people
Yeah.
make examples all the time with the Second Amendment, talking about how they didn't envision electrically powered Gatling guns back when they wrote that. Did they envision TikTok?
Yeah. Well, definitely not.
I can
So, do
go.
you think that these protests that are out there are, a symptom of that, or is it just
Well, I think that there are a lot of things at play. I think that the protests that you're referring to,
Colombia?
yes, and all over the country and in parts of the world, I think that they consist. It's probably like a 90-10 split. 90% being people who really have no idea what they're supporting and what they're so angry about. And one of the modern diseases, I believe, social diseases that we've sort of invented is that outrage is kind of like, it's like a currency. And you need to have as much of it as you can, no matter who you are, derive it from whatever sources you can. So I think 90% of them don't know they don't know what river to the sea means. They don't know what that implies. They don't know what the end result of the people, the end goals of the people who came up with that are. And then they have 10% who know exactly what they're saying and exactly what they want, and they know exactly what they're doing. And those are terrifying people. People that, well, I'm not going to get into what I would do with them personally, but I think that 10% is definitely weaponizing the other 90% for sure. And they know what they're doing. They've done it before. Except that now it's turbocharged with social media. It's turbocharged. Back in the 90s, you had to rely on network news and CNN to bring you images that are now just like being broadcast by phone, from 1,000 different sources. So.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's definitely playing into it. None of those people see the balance. They don't see the complexity of the situation at all. They've picked the target, and that's it. They're going after it, and they're saying whatever they can to produce whatever emotional response they can. So yeah, I think it's horrible. I think it's the opposite of enlightenment. I think these people are the opposite of educated. They're just loud. That's all they are. You're supposed to be listening in school, not talking. I'm sorry, but that's what you're supposed to be doing. Once you've formulated your opinions and your brain is matured, then go out and talk for the rest of your life. But in school, there's a reason that there's a person at the head of the class talking and everyone else is sitting and listening, and that's not happening.
Yeah, that's an interesting, and it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better anytime
No,
soon.
because and look, every generation goes through this, but now it's reached like this point of absurdity. The young people think they know more about everything than older people, and I used to be one of those people. Now I'm transitioning over to the other end of the spectrum, and I'm just like, oh my god, was I really this big of a fucking asshole for that long? And thank God I didn't. It wasn't at a time when I could have memorialized my stupidity forever for all
Right.
generations to
Right.
come.
So if TikTok truly goes away, is that a play that's good for Meta, right? And Google.
Yeah, getting back to the topic. Yeah, sure. I honestly, I'm not sure what the market share, what the respective market shares are of, YouTube and TikTok. But is there a huge difference in, interface and experience between YouTube Shorts and TikTok?
You know, I don't know what the market share is. I know TikTok is growing. They're all growing. It's just a matter of. But you have to think the amount of hours that are spent on that app just in the U.S. If it goes away, they've got to go somewhere, right? Maybe they'll go to books.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, no, I don't think
Let's
so.
make that call.
Yeah. All right. So switching gears a little bit, the election's coming up. How much are you paying attention to or sitting pat waiting to see what happens in terms of deploying capital in the markets? Or are the stuff you're looking at sort of agnostic to who's in the, in power, so to speak?
Well, the stuff that I'm most interested in and am into, I think it is fairly agnostic. I think it's happening no matter what. I have a suspicion that another Trump administration may do something good for the markets, at least initially.
Right.
It might be like a shot of meth or something. I mean, who knows? Like you saw what happened with this IPO. So
Yeah.
I'm not really sitting around. I'm kind of already deployed. I'm mostly. I mean, yeah, I'm really waiting for the other shoe to drop on a number of different things. We have a lot of geopolitical stuff going on. We've already kind of touched on it, but just stuff that needs to sort of come to a resolution. And I was hoping that they, instead of having to deal with all of them at once, like two wars, two, potentially significant conflicts going on in different parts of the world simultaneously, and the election. I was hoping they kind of would come one after another, but all at the same time. It doesn't really make me, if I were a big retail investor that was, looking to deploy a bunch of cash, I don't know if right now would be the time to be doing that. I would probably wait at least for some resolution somewhere.
Right. And you think that could be closer to the election or after?
Well, the election will likely cause a domino effect, at least with Ukraine. I would say it may. If Trump wins, then there may be a big rethinking in Kiev as far as how they're going to proceed,
Right.
And if they are going to even consider cutting their losses, because so far that dialogue has been pretty much one-sided. He's like, no conversation until you're off our property, period.
Right.
Which is understandable, but yeah, I'm thinking that the election might trigger some resolutions. We'll have to see.
A couple of years, actually, I guess it was about 18 months ago, you were on here talking about graphene, which is interesting. It's still been one of the most popular topics on the YouTube channel. You mentioned some other sort of would you classify graphene as like a nano? Like what type of? It's a nanostructure.
A nanostructure,
right.
Meaning that in one dimension, at least, it's only the thickness of a molecule.
Right.
And so,
okay.
So you can't get any thinner physically and remain what it is.
Right.
So yeah, do I consider it?
It's nanotechnology.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
okay.
It's man-made, so it's a technology. It's engineered on a nanoscopic scale. So yes, I do. The story is gaining momentum. They're finding new applications for it all the time. Something that I think is potentially cool is biotech.
Yeah.
Because apparently it has the ability to resist immunoresponse, right? So that's
well, one of the comments in fact, quite a few of the comments on your video are saying that graphene was or is in the vaccine. Is that accurate? I know you're not I know you're not Dr. Fauci over here.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, have you vetted have you?
No. I just read the comments. I'm just like everybody else.
I don't know. I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Okay.
But, I'm not Dr. Fauci, and I don't know why.
But you just said there's biotech applications for graphene.
For like implants and stuff.
Okay, so you're talking about like a stent.
So
or
if it has like an innate immunosuppressive effect, that means that we can. Well, actually, the immune response only comes for other organic implants. Like if you get like a pig heart, for example, you might get your body might reject it. Your body
Right.
isn't going to reject like a titanium implant, for example. What it might do is it might form a clot around it. But graphene apparently has the ability to deal with all of these issues if it's engineered properly. So I think that plus being as small as it is, it's possible that we might start building, actually machines on that scale, which can do a whole lot of great things in the body. I know that sounds really scary to some people, but
Well, look,
clean out your arteries.
yeah, I follow the UFO topic or UAP topic,
Uh-huh.
and graphene is always kind of brought up when they talk about what are known as metamaterials that may have been recovered from
Right.
particular crashes and stuff like that.
So when did
So,
this one? Which crash gave us graphene? I'm just
well, I
curious
don't.
what the theory is there.
I don't have the specifics regarding that, but I mean the biggest lore is fiber optics,
Mm-hmm.
from these other ones. But um, it seems like there's more and more of these sort of nano metamaterial structures being, I don't want to
Well,
say
I
invented.
mean, we're not doing so badly technology-wise either. Here on Earth, we're
Here,
developing, pretty rapidly. The official story on graphene is that it was discovered in like 2004, and uh, important research began in like 2010. Well, no, sorry. In 2012, there was a Nobel Prize awarded to its two principal researchers. And so it was like twice the cost of gold to produce back then, and it's just it's dropped to the point where graphene coating is almost like an industrial process now. So it's gotten almost casual. So you're going to start seeing it everywhere. Just like at one point silicon was the same way. So and plastic before that. So it's not.
graphene's the new plastic.
I mean, maybe, yeah, sure. It's super versatile. It's man-made. It doesn't occur naturally. I don't know why you have to give aliens credit for it, but it seems kind of unimpressive actually. If a civilization that surpassed light speed, and they just gave us graphene. That's all we got.
Well, I
How
think
about
we got
something
other
cool?
stuff too.
Like what? Where are the ray guns?
Yeah.
Where are the ray guns? We're still
Well,
using M16s,
yeah.
pretty much. So
They're coming. They're coming. Um, so are there any other like what's got you most excited at this point in that space or other space?
well, I'm always big on batteries. We talked about vanadium batteries
Yeah.
last time, so I'm still like that. Vanadium batteries are one of those kind of boring, not very sexy investments that happen to make a lot of sense. And I wrote about this in editorial already, so maybe some of the people have seen it. But one of the benefits of vanadium is that it isn't sexy. Because it isn't sexy, it never had to go through a lithium type bubble. It never got
Right, the
over.
hype cycle.
There's no hype cycle. It never got overbought. It's just kind of this boring, bulky, inefficient technology that happens to have a perfectly suited application, which is like the fastest growing segment in the entire kind of battery universe, which is distributed energy storage. So, if you want a solar farm, then you're going to need a battery, and vanadium is the best type of battery. End of story. So, it's not that new. It's just it's becoming popular now for that application because lithium used to dominate as it dominated everything, and now we're seeing more specialization.
So there are actual vanadium batteries already deployed.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, the company I'm covering will sell you one if you want. So
How much do they cost? A lot?
yeah, I mean they're expensive. They just got the Department of Energy funded like an 84 megawatt hour store capacity series of projects involving this company. They're going to supply the storage capacity. So it's for a company that's like 50 million market cap. This is a big deal. It's
Okay.
they're
So
not.
it's
It's
still
not a fly by night bullshit.
yeah, so it's still has a lot of
Yeah,
growth
a
potential there.
a lot of potential. And again, it was never overhyped. Nobody gave a damn about vanadium 2 years ago, and they kind of still don't. But it's coming. So if you want to be smart about it,
Yeah, and that's usually the time to get in. Sometimes it's not like hey, you're gonna buy this, and then next week it goes up. Like oftentimes,
That's the dream, but
right? But oftentimes we're just early, right?
yeah, I
We're
mean,
early. And
yeah.
I don't even like the phrase too early now because it's like, what do you mean? Like, you'd rather be too early than too late, right? And the big gains come from,
Too early may mean you lost 75% before it doubled too. So that's,
well,
you know,
yeah, but it does mean that you don't miss that huge run up when ultimately it
I
comes out.
think I like for this one. I kind of like the idea of a slow, gradual run up that lasts for years.
Yeah.
So I think that's realistic, and it's not a stressful investment. It's not something that's going to get you super excited, which should be the first sign that it's a good idea.
Okay.
You know.
I like that. And you mentioned, what was the other thing we talked about before we went
Oh,
live?
there's Nano. Yeah, we kind of
Is that
skating.
is that is
It's not
particularly
graphene.
graphene is
No, no,
something
no,
else?
no, no, because they do more processes. So they develop like sintering. Do you know about?
No.
So sintering is it's almost like 3D printing using metallic powders. And so what they do is that they can create shapes by applying heat and pressure that overall much less energy investment than melting something down and casting it. And so plus it can be much more precise, like
Okay.
precise on a nanoscopic level. And so this
It
company.
sounds like how you would build an alien spacecraft.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so now they've unveiled that. Yeah, so you don't really hear much. The first sintering story I read, I think, was in like 2015, and of course it happened because some guy sintered a 45 automatic completely. Like he made a gun with a metal barrel that could withstand 20,000 pounds per square inch of pressure, which gun barrels have to withstand. And so you can't 3D print a gun just because specifically because of that. You have to you can make almost all components out of plastic, but there are pressure bearing parts of it that you have to go with metal. And he made a 45 that was just completely every single part was made using sintering, and and you have to be hyper precise also, so it
Right.
works right. And of course he did that, and there was an uproar, but it got into the news. That was like back in the maybe 2016. So
But I
it's
mean, what did he obviously had some like sophisticated
yeah, it was
equipment
like
to
$1 million worth of equipment. It
yeah.
wasn't like no idiot in his basement is going to be doing this.
Right.
But it's been around, but now it's again it's getting cheap and effective and commonplace enough that it's like all cool technologies, it's just becoming more and more sort of an option. Yeah, so this company does that. They also do they produce powders cryogenically. So I don't know if you've heard of this at all. They basically cool down some sort of block of whatever. It can be even a metal. Usually it's some sort of ceramic. They cool it down to like negative 280 degrees, and then they run it through a machine that just breaks it up into tiny, tiny little nanoscopic particles, the finest powder ever. And they can use that powder. Also, that powder would go into things like sintering, and also coating, making alloys, and
Okay.
yeah,
So
nanotechnology is the theme.
they freeze it, I guess, because the
It
molecules
becomes more
like
brittle. Everything crystallizes, and so
okay.
in a crystallized form, things are easier to break. They tend to come apart in a more predictable manner than when they're at their room temperature state.
Interesting. So they're producing that, and then you use that in the sintering or
That's one of the
manufacturing
things you can do.
process.
Yeah, or in manufacturing alloys for clients based on whatever needs they have. So, yeah, it's cool. It's not super duper sexy. It's not like they're injecting people with nanobots and they're making supermen. That's not really where we're at. But again, it's a kind of interesting story. I think it's at the beginning right now, and it's going to become more of an industrial process.
Yeah, I think with the rise of AI, so to speak, and things like NVIDIA and chips and like software, people tend to not be focused on the actual physical elements out there that need to be done to create this new world that is, you know, coming, right? You can scale out software to do like AI stuff, but to actually make it interact with the physical world, you're going to need these
Yeah,
materials
yeah,
and new processes in
sure.
order to
No,
in
that's the
order to
next
make it
step.
happen.
That's the next step is, you
It
know,
sounds like something you could build a robot with.
that came on a spaceship.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of cool. You seen the new Atlas? Have you seen like
Yeah,
that?
but it was only like a 20-second clip,
Well,
right?
it's where it was laying on the ground and then
Yeah, and
stood
it
up
just
really
gets up.
creepy.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's also it looks
well,
smaller
because
and
there's no
like more
hydraulics anymore. It's all electrical.
right.
I think it's pretty sweet. I would definitely have one in my house.
Yeah. Well, how much is that gonna be?
Well, I mean, back in the mid '50s, a TV
Yeah.
cost like $15,000
Yeah.
in today's money. So
Yeah. So Elon's in that space, so we'll see what happens with that. Um,
that's weird. I
so
don't know if I want, because then you have like, I mean, Elon puts a lot of his own little touches into all of his products, like Tesla's fart, right? So I don't
so
know if you want that in your house.
well,
Like,
what's
it
what's he
gonna
gonna
do?
build into your?
I don't know. It'll like, I just don't even want to imagine that. But it's a pretty dark.
You think it's gonna fart
dark
on
pit.
you?
At best, at best.
Well, yeah, I'm certainly excited. The interesting thing is that the latest the self-driving updates
Hmm.
is supposedly pretty good. I don't know.
Is that where you want self-driving capabilities to be? Like,
Pretty good.
yeah.
Well, I think they've it's already been pretty good, but this leap is to the point where they're giving out free trials to it because they're convinced that people are gonna. It's like ChatGPT, like it was like kind of free, and then it just
I just like how they managed to negotiate the American legal system with that invention is just mind-boggling to me because like what happens if two Teslas both autonomous crash into each other? Or what happens if a Tesla crashes into an autonomous Chevy? Who is getting the lawsuit here? How do you decide who's getting the lawsuit?
well, I think it's the insurance companies.
Well, yeah, the insurance company is going to want to indemnify the situation. So
Right.
who's the insurance company going to sue
Yeah.
to get their money back?
The interesting thing about insurance, particularly car insurance, is that it was up 28% in the latest CPI report. And they're basically saying because these cars are so more electronic now that
That they're more dangerous?
not that they're more dangerous, they cost more to repair.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. You're familiar with my incident with my truck.
Right.
Uh,
That was an AI
What was
situation.
it? That's what I blamed it on. They just took over. But there was so many sort of sensors
Mhm.
and software. Like at multiple times they had to bring it to Dodge or Chrysler or whatever the thing is to get it like I don't know recertified, calibrated using some software, and it was like 8 hours of
Sure.
work
Right.
with that, and they had to bring it back, and they had to
That's
check
what makes
'cause
it
it's all
expensive.
right.
Because otherwise, manufacturing would be in line with that same increase, and it's not. Manufacturing is still pretty reasonable. So
Right. So they're starting to see that impact on the repairs, and then also just the time frame too on there.
well,
So
maybe they'll cost more to repair, but there'll be fewer repairs to make.
that I think that's the
That's
that's the
idea.
hope. But I think now we're in the point where we haven't quite gotten there. So there's still a significant number of accidents and whoops
Well, look,
situations
it's
that
only a
need
matter
to
of time
require
before
repair.
they're better than human drivers.
Yeah. When do you think that is? What's your prediction on the Singularity? Are you ever going to own a
Driverless car?
driverless car?
When my son starts driving, I will,
Yeah.
because he's going to be driving one.
Yeah.
He's going to be riding in one.
Yeah.
So, but he's 2.5. Let me think. When is that going to happen? I mean, the singularity specifically. Like, you want like a general singularity event date, or
Yeah.
when autonomous cars will be better than people?
Yeah. Well, I should say, when do you think there will be more autonomous cars than on the road
More autonomous capable cars.
than driver cars?
Well, so by 2029, apparently all cars, at least in this country, are going to have autonomous braking capabilities. That's mandated already. So
Okay,
there,
and
90% of cars already do.
I was gonna say that's just like the sense it like
I'm saying it's coming, and
Yeah.
it's going to be probably pretty fast. I think that once people stop, well, they're thinking about putting autonomous tractor trailers on the road. I think when that starts happening, the people are just going to start getting used to the fact that this is the new normal, and then a stupid day. I'll just say the end of the decade. It'll probably already have come and gone.
All right.
So
we're gonna rewind and evaluate your prediction in 10 years.
Rewind. That word won't even exist probably.
Yeah, people don't even know
like,
what rewind
what
means. Yeah, people don't even know what rewind means.
They don't even hold like.
Sarah, do you know what rewind means?
Yeah, like with a VHS.
Oh yeah, okay. She's not that young.
I mean, being young is always a positive thing. Well, unless you're protesting at college. Sorry.
All right. Well, that's a good place to end it. Thanks, Alex. Is there any parting words you want to have? Like, comment and like and subscribe and all that to our
you
stuff.
do that really well, though.
Yeah, no, I don't. I forgot to do it in the middle because I think by now everybody's tuned out.
Comment, like, and subscribe.
Yeah, and we'll link out some of your articles that you wrote on Vanadium and all that, and for people to check it out. And you write for Wealth Daily as well. Is that correct? Or Energy and Capital?
No, only EAC now.
Only Energy and Capital.
That's right.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you sometimes can check it on Wealth Daily, but most of the time on Energy and Capital. Gotcha. All right. So long, and so long to TikTok.